I think a documentary is necessary because the American people have to fight back.
Yes, we do.
And a film is one way of doing it. And I can't tell you how many Americans have said to me, Marcy, we're giving up. We're going to move to Canada, we're going to move to France, we're going to move to Mexico. I said, America has given us the best years of our lives. Monopoly finance right now, where 5 banks control 40% of the deposits in the country. They're the very same ones that outsourced our jobs, and now they're taking our homes.
Yes, they are.
And while everybody else is on unemployment lines and food lines, they made $143 billion in bonuses. So it's the same characters. The trail leads right back to Wall Street and down to Charlotte. So it's nothing new, and they are making huge money off of the pain of the people.
Correct.
The people of our generation, go back and read about the American Revolution. Go back and think about the people who said, we want to break the bonds that hold us down. We don't want to be dominated anymore by a colonial power that asks us to produce and then takes all of our wealth, right? And we want to be our own country, and we want to assume that power unto ourselves. And they formed a Declaration of Independence. And I would say to the young people of this country, you got the internet, you got so many more tools than our forefathers and mothers had. We need a Declaration of Independence for the modern era so that we can recapture our country and take it back and give it to the people who worked so hard to preserve our liberties and to carry them to the next generation. Unfortunately, what happened is that the corporate sector and the bank, including the banking sector of this country, got too self-serving post-World War II. And when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1989, rather than using that peace dividend to strengthen the American people and strengthen our country, they captured more of it to themselves. And so, for example, right now, the young people of our country, I say to myself, why aren't they organizing marches on Wall Street? On Wall Street, they just took $143 billion in bonuses when our young people are being turned into debtors. The average student, $20,000 in debt, $50,000, $100,000. I just met 2 divinity students with $100,000 in debt. You are not free. They have the bondsmen have their hooks into you, and you have to say, hey, wait a minute. You have to think back to the founding principles and the founding energy of our country. And there needs to be a compact among our young people, the best and the brightest. Liberty isn't an automatic. It has to be won anew by every generation. And you simply can't take this. You cannot be a tool of Wall Street, which they are making you. They are making you a sharecropper. They are making you a debtor. That is unfair to the future. Our liberties will not be preserved if the younger generation doesn't stand up and say, no. It doesn't make a difference unless people fight back. And that's what the revolution was all about.
Yes,
we are a revolutionary people. And if the American people take back their country, and what they have to do is they have to wrestle down the forces that are strangling us. And those forces are very easy to find. They're the banks on Wall Street and in Charlotte, and all the subsidiaries that attach themselves to them that have done this to us. And they don't want to be in the spotlight. Those forces control our media, the messages that are fed over the media, and they want the people to be hopeless. They want the people, because if you're hopeless, you don't do anything, right?
Exactly.
And I say to the American people, you got to have a revolutionary spirit.
We do.
And you've got to love liberty as much as Daniel Webster loved liberty, as much as Thomas Paine loved liberty, as much as George Washington loved liberty. And you have to love sweet liberty, and you have to understand what it means, and that we have to bind together. And they want people to feel alone. They want them to feel hopeless, because then they control them.
Yeah.
This is not the America we want. Well, I'll tell you, your generation, you weren't taught how to organize groups of people in the common interest, for the common good. And that involves mobilization. There was never anything great that happened in this country when people didn't mobilize to make it happen. When the first credit union was established in Filene's basement in the city of Boston, people said, hey, wait a minute, we don't want to be charged these high interest rates. We're going to create our own financial institutions. And credit unions were created as a tool to fight back against control by very large banks. When labor unions organized in partnership with churches during the early part of the 20th century, America got Social Security. She got a 40-hour work week. She got time and a half overtime. She got no child labor. It was unbelievable what happened when people mobilized. Frankly, when people mobilized, we became a republic. We threw off England, a colonial power, and now I see America in so many places in the world becoming a colonial power in places that don't even want us. I'm thinking in partnership with Great Britain. I thought, wait a minute, don't we remember our own history here? We wanted to be independent. So the young people, they've got all the instruments, but they've got to remember their political power. They've got to reassume their political power. They've got to mobilize. And frankly, if I were the young people, one of the first things I'd do is I'd go to Congress and I'd say, take the $143 billion back from Wall Street. They don't deserve it because they hurt the American people, and help us forgive our student loans from coast to coast. And do you realize how far that would go to freeing this generation from the bondage that they're in? I'd work with them on that. I'd march with them. They're burdened with this massive debt that's like a millstone around their neck. And they have to be freed from that, but they have to fight politically in order to get rid of it. And there are ways to get rid of it. I mean, they could come up with proposals to tax, put a fee on every lazy stock and bond transaction on Wall Street, a tiny little fee, 0.00001%. With the number of trades that happen in a day, they could raise a pool of money to relieve their own debt and to make Social Security whole for another century. You know, but you have to mobilize. It just doesn't happen by accident. And through the internet, what young people are capable of, oh my goodness, they could really make a difference in this society. But it's like they're silent. I'm thinking, oh, have they forgotten what liberty is all about?
Maybe this will make the difference.
Liberty. And liberty means, the word liberty is different than freedom. Liberty means to be freed from. To be freed from something that holds you down. So the younger generation has to recapture the liberty for the country, for themselves, and for the nation. They have to free themselves and the nation from the bondage that is holding us down. And it's pretty clear who has the power.
Yes.
You know, the students might think about organizing a tent city on Washington.
All right.
Why couldn't they do that and demand that that $143 billion in bonuses be taken and given to relieve their student debt?
Correct.
We need, in this 21st century, the model
Correct.
for freedom
Right.
that the veterans did
Yes.
after our wars, after World War I, for heaven's sake. They weren't taking care of our veterans. They marched on Washington.
Yes.
Jesse Jackson, Reverend Martin Luther King during the 1960s, on civil rights in Washington. The nation changed. The nation changed. So I think for our young people,
Right.
this is the 21st century.
True.
Are we going to hear them? Are they going to march for liberty? Are they going to do that? I think that this is a tremendous opportunity.
I think
And
so
I
too.
think it would change the nation. Is it easy? No. They want to take people's hope away. They want to make you immobilized because they win without trying. We have to challenge that. I feel I've been doing that my whole life, trying to challenge the existing system. And it's very hard, but you can't give up because America is too important to the world, and those who fought for her gave everything. And we can't forget that. We can't be spoiled in our generation and say she's not worth the fight. We have to measure up to those who came before us and created a path to liberty. We can't tarnish her as we move into America's third century.